All right, welcome everyone to our Tuesday afternoon or mastermind session, depending on where you're located. Yet we do this every Wednesday game in an effort to improve your knowledge, your skills, your mindset, and most importantly, your habits as it relates to attracting agents over to EXP to help our organization grow. And since we're a company that is owned by the agents for the agents, when the company does well, we all get to do well. So this is a group of like-minded individuals who choose to add value to the real estate community at large. And we're here to just gain knowledge, improve our skills. So in an effort to do that, I believe that the smart people, they learn from their own mistakes, right? As Bright Bear said so many years ago, he said, if you make a mistake, there's only three things you should do. Okay, number one, admit it. In essence, own it. Okay, second, learn from it. And then third, never repeat it. So again, the smart people, they learn from their own mistakes. Now, the smarter people learn from the mistakes of others. Yet the smartest people of all, they study those that have achieved the success that they choose to achieve. So today, again, we have Connor Steinbrook. He's going to pour into you guys. He's going to share methodologies, strategies, tactics that you can implement today to improve your influence with the agent community, to attract them right to your revenue share organization here at EXP. So Connor, without any further delay, and I know I've been rambling, let's introduce Connor. Connor, just tell us your story, man. How'd you end up coming over to EXP? What was it that attracted you? How long did it take for you to come to EXP? And maybe a little bit more background, how long you've been in real estate sales, so on and so forth. So Connor, take it away.
Tell me how many minutes you want me to tell my story within, because I can give you the real fast version or a little bit longer version. So how much time do you want me to tell my story in that little window?
Great question, Connor. Let's keep it around 3 minutes if you can.
Okay, I'll go quick. I grew up in Dallas, Texas. I went off to University of Oklahoma in 2003 to get a business marketing degree. And my parents were so proud of me because I majored in online poker instead. So what happened was there was an online poker boom in 2003. I put $20 in a poker site as a freshman in college. And I ran it into a small fortune. Just to be honest, my hobby became my profession. It was completely unexpected. And I finished out college out of respect for my parents, but I really went on for about 8 years. And I played poker full time on the internet. I was one of the top online poker players until I learned a very hard lesson, which is good things sometimes don't last forever. So we need to have multiple streams of income to protect ourselves, because I had one good income stream. And then on April 15th, 2011, if you guys remember that, what happened was United States Department of Justice shut down the big poker sites, Full Tilt Poker, Poker Stars, and there was all sorts of shady stuff going on. Who really knows what was going on? But overnight, I lost my identity. I lost my one skill set I spent almost a decade building that was no longer valuable. All my friends lost their identity. Our entire world disappeared. So it's a very tough time for me. I was young and naive and didn't have emotional control at the time. And I gambled off pretty much everything I'd built up for almost a decade. I went to WinStar Casino and I lost all on blackjack and craps. That's why if you go there, it's so nice. And there's so many nice features in that hotel because they use my money to do it. And it's a tough time for me. I had to move back home with my parents, actually. And I had to move back home in my mid-20s after having cars and diamond watches and everything I wanted and having the life. And it was a rough learning experience for me. And for 2 years, I played for me. And I waited for the world to change. And obviously, nothing changes unless we change. And I stumbled across personal development. And I came across Napoleon Hill's Principles of Success, 17 rules of his Principles of Success that led me to Think and Grow Rich. And that really made me realize that I wasn't thinking. And I need to start thinking. When I started thinking, I became rich. Funny how that works, right? But not cliche whatsoever. I'm not trying to sell you anything. That's the story that's kind of how my life turned around, was through self-development. I read hundreds of books. I had just enough courage to jump into real estate. I started out in the investing space first, and I failed miserably. I went $100,000 in debt. I put a bunch of money up for a big coaching company. Didn't go well. Tried everything. And before I knew it, I was out of money. And this is what led me to social media. And this is important to understand for all you here. You do not need money to build a business. You need time and work ethic and goals that you'll never stop chasing, because I was teaching myself how to build WordPress websites by watching free YouTube videos and teaching myself SEO. And Google had just acquired YouTube. And what I was doing was taking private YouTube channels and linking to my websites. And what happened was it drove the domain, triggered the algorithm that pushed my websites up to page 1. And I built a large wholesaling business first. I came up in the investment space. Then I moved into flipping, mostly rehabbing and flipping properties. Built a rental portfolio, transitioned to like owner financing, creative financing. I would create notes and sell notes and buy direct to the seller of financing and sell it on owner financing. And then I did land and mobile home deals. And that's when I started my Investor Army channel. It's one of the larger YouTube channels in the residential real estate space. And I just started showing people the problems that I had and how I got past them. And that kind of took off. And that's when people started reaching out to me about EXP back in like 2016, 17. And just to be honest, I wasn't even licensed at the time. And I was blowing everybody off because it didn't seem something that made sense for me. The background, somebody's got their noise on there. I don't know if y'all can hear me.
That was me, you guys. I'm so very sorry. I just pulled your YouTube channel up and it just started playing. I so apologize.
Okay. Yeah. So that's when people started reaching out to me. And this is important to understand that if you're reaching out to someone and they're saying no, it doesn't mean they're saying no forever. And I said no, and it was a hard no. I believed I meant it too. I was never coming to EXP. I actually believed it. So it wasn't even that I just said no and like maybe. It was like, no, I understand this is a good opportunity. I'm sure lots of people are doing well over there, but there's lots of great opportunities. I didn't realize it was like the opportunity. And God works in crazy ways. And 2 years later, what happened was after blowing it off, I was speaking at an owner financing conference in Mississippi. And there's about 6 speakers at the event, and 3 of them were put in my speaker's house. And it's like 1 a.m. and a man walks in the house and he looks like Rob Flick, because he was. And Rob's sitting in the living room. I have no idea who Rob Flick is, by the way, at this time. And he's asking me about what I'm doing there. And I'm telling him I'm about to speak on real estate investing and this. And I'm like, well, what are you doing here? And he's like, I'm going to talk about EXP Realty. And I was like, oh, crap, right? I'm like, Rob, it's a little bit late. I got to get upstairs. I'm like trying to avoid the conversation. And then he starts telling me who he is and that he was at Papa Keller Williams and that his background. And I was able to confirm it. And I was like, well, let me give him some time. And he was able to show me the revenue share model, that he was making 6 figures a month in residual income, barely 2 years in the company. And it was really kind of like one of those Wolf of Wall Street movies or whatever it is, when he's like, prove to me you make 72K a month. I quit my job. I work for you. I was like, Rob, if you prove to me you're making 6 figures residual income in barely over 2 years with no debt, no tenants, no termites, no toilets, no back-end management system, I'm going to pivot. I'm going to go get my real estate license and I'm going to build this thing with you around the world. And that's essentially what happened. So I had the mentality to go back home and get my license right away, but I didn't. And I hesitated, and business picked up. And this is why it's important to stay on people, because distractions pick up. Not that they weren't intending to do it, but if they're a busy person, what could come in their way? Life liabilities, health issues, all sorts of stuff. And thankfully, I was speaking at an event a month later in Tucson, Arizona, and Rob Flick was speaking at that event out of nowhere. 4 speakers once again. So twice in different parts of the country, I was stuck in proximity with Rob, and I was just like, okay, I hear you. I'm going to do this. I booked my real estate license classes that night at midnight. I flew home, got up, I knocked out the license as fast as I could. I came to EXP. The first year I sponsored 40 people. They turned into over 150. Second year, we over doubled to 300. Third year, we over doubled again to over 600. That's right around when I brought Mike Sherrard in. So you guys know Mike Sherrard. And that's when we shot to 1,000 the next year. We grew by over 1,000 agents. And currently right now, we're at over 2,600 agents, and we've added almost 200 agents in the past 30 days. So I know I went a little bit over 3 minutes, but I tried to keep it in there and go quick for you guys. But that's kind of how it all played out. And this company's life-changing. It definitely is. And even if you guys come from a background where it's not traditionally real estate sales, I tell that story so you know that you have a future here and an opportunity to hit your goals and dreams just like everybody does. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a top producing background that's a skill set that gets you there. There's lots of different ways to play this game, but now let's go into whatever you want to ask me and how can I help these agents?
Right on. So over 2,600 agents in the group. Connor, you know what that is, but somebody tell Connor, what is that?
Winning.
That's winning, Jack. That's exactly right. That's winning in a powerful way. Way to go, Connor. So much to unpack there. All right. So you've invested your life into a certain strategy. You're doing quite well at it. And just like the travel agents from about a decade ago, their entire industry just wiped out by a cloud-based version. Yours was shut down by the US government. So you're kind of stuck holding the bag saying, what am I going to do with my life? So this introduction of Rob Flick, I mean, that was a pivoting moment, a defining moment in your life. And yet you still hesitated. What was going on in your mind at that time? And by the way, how did Rob follow up with you, or did he?
Rob didn't follow up with me. We had mutual friends that I actually ended up naming my sponsor. That was kind of a weird, it would take too long to probably tell that story today, but my mindset was, I'm just busy. I'm grinding my businesses. I had full-time businesses. We were flipping 8 to 12 houses at a time. I was running a consulting company and a couple other things I was doing. And it was one of those, I know it's good to do. I know I can make money doing it, but it's an opportunity cost of time. Where do I put my time? And I already had trains running down the train tracks going a direction, and it's just kind of like I'd have to get another one back on a train track and figure it out type of stuff. And so it's more a time management thing. And I think this is where a lot of our growth came from as well, because as I realized what caused my hesitation and my decision to come as a busy, successful person ahead of time, I realized busy, successful people are going to have time limitations. And so when I built the Wolfpack system out, what I tried to do was create a system for busy people to come in to remove their time from it so that they could come in and we could help them leverage their network. That's really kind of one of the things that we do a lot of. But it wasn't that I wasn't thinking EXP was a good opportunity. It was more just like, I didn't know if it made sense for me at the time with my time management. And I think that's where a lot of people are. And so people make decisions off of three things. They do it off of money, time, or emotion. And the only thing that you need to do in sales or conversion of any type, whether you're selling a product, service, or opportunity, is paint the picture for them in the present moment in the conversation you're having, that in the future, one of those three things will be better. They're either going to save money or increase their money, save time or increase time, or reduce negative emotions or increase positive emotions. You can prove to someone that their future is better, they're going to buy the product or service or opportunity. If they can't think that putting the time or money or risk or whatever they're giving up in the present will improve their future, nothing happens. So when you guys are attracting agents, the only thing you're trying to do is make sure that they see their future's better here. And that's really the key to sales when you really think about it. But what changed my mind is just proximity to credibility, meaning I knew Rob Flick was who he was. And then I met Gene Frederick, then I met Scott Lewis and Tracy Lewis. And before then, I had not met anybody that was credible, that had been at the company a long time, that had built something. And this is important for you guys to understand why you go up the upline, why you bring them to Sean, why you bring them, bring third-party calls in, because my partners were a little bit newer and they came from the investment space. So to me, I'm like, okay, I know them. What's kind of, what if it's your sister or your brother or your close friend? But when you bring in somebody else that has a credible background, why did Rob leave the #1 company in the world to start a new company with like 500 agents? I don't need to think on my own. I need to find the leading experts in the industry. Let's say, Tom Brady decides to go over to the European Football League and a couple other top NFL quarterbacks go over there. I don't even think about it. I just need to follow the people that know more than I do. So I'm looking for people that have skill sets and the things that I want to have skill sets in that I know it's important to, but I don't want to have to trade all that time to go figure it out. So I kind of piggybacked off the decision-making process of them, which helps. So it's a combination of all those things that kind of made me realize this is something I just have to do.
Fantastic, Connor. So a couple of things real fast. There's really 4 categories that I believe we must focus on when building a sustainable revenue share group. Many of you have heard me talk about this in the past. I call it the 4 R's, right? Number 1 is recruiting. Number 2 is retention. Number 3 is revenue or per agent production. And number 4 is reproduction, to get them into action around attraction. Now, Connor, out of those 4 categories, and I know we didn't prep for this, I'm going to put you on the spot for a second. Which do you believe is the most important? Again, it's recruiting, retention, revenue or per agent production, and reproduction. Where do you invest most of your time right now at 2,600 in your group? And has that changed as your organization has grown?
Yes, it does change. So in the beginning of your business, it's 100% of focus on agent attraction. It's the most important skill set. So I've always used the terminology WDB. So build wide up top, meaning attract agents first. You have no business to become a leader until you actually have agents. So first you have to build the skill set of being a recruiter. Second step is now you're a talent scout. As you attract your front line, you need to look through that front line to see who the best leaders are going to come out that you can run with to actually build a business. So you're building the width on the front line, looking for the leaders you're going to work with to drive the depth deep. And every year what I do is I try to find 1, 2, 3 people that I work with closely and mentor, kind of like what I did with Mike. And I train them very closely behind the scenes. So I have my apprenticeship kind of with my closest leaders. And then I run an overall leadership group. And then I have the mass training group on the bigger calls. So I kind of break it down in one-on-one apprenticeships with my leaders, the overall leader groups, the mid-range leaders, and then the full team. But yeah, so like when you're starting out, as you start to build your team, the second skill set that you need to have is to train people how to recruit. So first step is you have to learn how to recruit. Second step is you have to train people how to recruit, which is you're becoming a leader. And the third step is you have to train people to recruit, to now train them to teach people how to recruit. So there's 3 levels: skill set of recruiting, then the leadership skill set, and then teaching other people to be leaders. So once you teach people to teach people how to lead, you can remove yourself from the system, because now you have people recreating the system, but you have to have something that you train them along the way. So this is not a recruiting business. This is an agent training, leadership, and duplication business, but you have to be able to build a front line big enough to get to the point where you can actually build business and become a leader to grow the front line. So I say build wide, drive it deep, try to look at your tiers where the agents are, because a lot of agents get, put too much time looking at FLQA qualification. And the number of FLQAs does not matter for your business in relationship to the EXP comp plan, meaning 7 tiers. It only matters in relationship to your individual business where the density of your agent counts falls. So let's say you have 500 agents, but they're in the top 3 tiers. Well, you don't need your 7th tier open yet. But let's say that you have a few people, onesies, twosies, and all of a sudden it built out real deep. You need to work on your agent traction to open up those tiers. So it's a relationship to your business that can be kind of paralleled across others, but you kind of have to look at it how yours grows out. So the main thing is training and building. So you need to focus on 2 things: mindset and skill sets. Mindset first, because if they cannot push through and persevere, doesn't matter how many skill sets they have, because they won't stand up every day. So we build the person first, and the business will build itself around them. So we build the belief that they can build their business in them. And this is important. As you guys are leaders, you need to understand it's not your job to build the business for your partners. It is your job to build the belief within them that they can build their own business. And it's your job to help them get back on the right mindset track when they get beat down. Because a lot of times in business, it's an emotional roller coaster. And our job is to be a gardener of negative emotions, meaning when we find them, pull them out of the system and replace them with positive emotions like hope and faith and pride and honor and respect, and things like that. But there's lots of different ways, Sean, to double your business. A lot of people think it's just attracting more or retaining fewer or increasing sales. But let me challenge you a little bit here about how to double it by increasing work ethic and work hours. So let's say you had 100 agents and they all put in 1 hour, just for easy math purposes. Most people would say how to double your business. So you'd say, well, I'd have to add 100 more. So I'd have 200 agents that put an hour a week in. What if we took the motivation strategies or mindset strategies and helped those agents work 1 hour, work 2? So now 100 are working 2, you have 200 hours. Is that not the same thing as doubling the business? So you can either add more agents, lose fewer agents, increase the skill sets, which increases, how many deals they're going to do, increase the workload, increase the culture, meaning the excitement within, because when people are excited, they put more time into something. And so it all works hand in hand. So I believe that leadership is the most important skill set. And then I believe that having a consistent proximity type of strategy like y'all are doing right now, where you meet regularly, y'all are doing this. Most groups don't, and they have growth issues. So the mentality behind the Wolfpack is we're not lone wolves who run together as family. So what y'all are doing here is, this is kind of what we do, right? You meet together, you run together. You're not a bunch of fragmented businesses kind of scattered around. So leverage each other, learn from each other. And what I did was I just tell people create a Frankenstein approach, meaning look at Sean, look at Chris on here, look at, myself or any of the other leaders at EXP. So I really like how Sean explained this. I'm going to take a pinky from him. And I like how Brent explained this. I'm going to take his ankle and an arm. And then you find yourself in the swing of everybody else's swing. You take pieces that you learn from, and then you create your own version of yourself. And so you're never trying to be someone else, but you're trying to learn from others and emulate others. And it's important that you can't just copy others because you're not someone else. So you need to figure out what works for you as well. And the most important thing is it's not about what you think is valuable to them. It's about what they think is valuable to them. And so don't think about what you think you should be saying to them. Think about what they're thinking, because by asking them questions to figure out where to take the conversation. I think a lot of people just throw information at people. You want to control the conversation, get data up front, ask them about their business, ask them, about their pain points, ask them about their numbers, and gather that data up front. And then take that through the conversation, apply the data back to that conversation, make it personal for them. And I think a lot of people, if you took a little bit more time asking questions, figuring out who you're talking to, you're going to see that the conversion rate's a little bit higher going through those conversations than just doing a straight same presentation that you would send to everybody. I tried to cover a lot of little things in there and little lessons, but what else? What else can I help with, Sean?
Dude, you're just dropping gold on these guys. I'm telling you, it's so powerful. And you just go through it so quickly that there's so many things I want to unpack. Yet before we do that, just tell me, what is your number one lead generation strategy to add FLAs to your organization?
That's a good question. Depending on, so I look at things a lot different. So we can look at volume of agents, or we can look at quality of agents. Just two completely different things, because, look at like Mike Sherrard. He's recruited almost 500 people. That's one agent, where you could have 500 people that don't recruit a single agent. So if you want to look at so there's two different ways to think about your business. You have proactive strategies and reactive strategies. Proactive strategies is your direct time being traded in a one-to-one time unit relationship. That'd be, let's use social media. Let's say Sean is on Facebook. I'm taking the time to write him a message, reach out to him, start a conversation one by one. That's a proactive strategy. It takes a lot more time, but the benefit from it is I get to choose who I'm reaching out to. I can research the person. I can actually pick the person I want to talk to. Now, a reactive strategy is taking that same time I would have been in that conversation with and creating a couple of YouTube videos, putting those on the internet and letting people come across it. Now, a lot more people are going to come across that content, and they can come to you as a reaction strategy, but they're going to be mostly newer agents for the most part. They're going to have a little bit of a lesser quality. Not always. Sometimes you can bring some big players in through social media, but a lot of times the bigger players that are going to build bigger businesses are busy people, and they're going to have gatekeepers. They're going to have other things that you're just not going to catch their time, and you have to fight for their time. And when they blow you off, you keep going. Like Mike Sherrard told me, go F off multiple times. Did I stop? And most people stop. So I'm a big believer in fewer but better. And just like how like a luxury agent would think. So it's not right or wrong, but you can go do hundreds of deals, or you can do a few deals and work closely. So I look at time management, and I look at who makes sense to spend time with, because we all know what it's like to invest time in others that we probably shouldn't have. But the biggest agents that you're going to bring in are going to be at networking events, like Tom Ferry events or high-level real estate conferences and things like that. And the reason why is if they're willing to invest time and money and effort to fly across the country for education, they're the type of lead entrepreneur that thinks improvement, meaning self-development. How do I better myself? How do I improve my life? How do I take it serious, and how do I swing for the fences? So the people that you're going to meet there are going to be a lot more difficult to bring on. They're going to take a lot more time to bring on, and they're going to be more on the tribal mentality, defending their current office and brokerage. But once you finally get them to come past that kind of barrier and make that decision, they're going to have that same type of grit and intensity behind the new brand that they're defending, if that kind of makes sense to y'all. So just don't give up on people and be patient. So the bigger they are, I would be a little more passive on your pressing nature to get them over here. And then if they're a little bit newer, you can push a little bit harder, because I'd focus more on like training tools and support systems and handholding type of stuff. And then like a little bit more seasoned agents that have been in the business for a long time, top producers, focus more on stock and rev share and icon status and things like that, and exiting the industry and how to have more time with your family, and when are you going to do this, and how you're going to exit at that point. So social media reactionary is by far the biggest volume strategy, using YouTube videos and social media and Instagram. But the most agents that we bring in that are the biggest builders come from face-to-face relationships met at real big conferences and networking events, local events, and things like that. And then other agents on the other end of the transaction, a lot of big agents come in that way. They may not like their current broker, and they had a good relationship with you in a transaction. So just be the coolest person in the deal. You're selling not just your skill set, but your personality. And people join you because they either like you or respect you. So think about like a Dan Pena. I don't know if you know, like Dan Pena is, he's respected, but he's hated, right? People probably don't want to be his friend, probably don't have a friend, but they pay him a lot of money to learn from, right? And then sometimes you may join someone that's like your sister. It's never sold a house. That got her license right before you did. And it's not that you have respect for her business skill set. She never built a business. She never even opened up a business email. It's because you like them. So some people partner with you because they like you. Some people partner with you because they respect you. And the best is to be liked and respected. If you can do both those things, you're going to grow quickly, and you're going to attract a lot of people, because you're an attractive person, and people want to move towards attractive people. Now, the main thing is when you go through your conversations with the people you're talking to, it's not so much about what you say. It's more so about how you say it. And when you're talking to people, it's a transference of energy, and we need to make them feel a certain way. They're not going to remember kind of what you said. And so a lot of agents are so fixated on scripts and what to say. I'd be more concerned with how to say it and how to make sure that they feel heard and feel accepted, and making sure that everybody's in the conversation. For example, like we lost a 20-person brokerage one time, just coming to my head for some reason. One of my agents, we had already had this all done, flown out to the market a couple of times, and then the husband brought the wife over when she worked in the business. And my partner called her the wrong name 3 times in one meeting, and that was enough to destroy a 20-person brokerage. So why did that happen? They no longer respected him because he didn't have the time to respect her, and he didn't deserve to get that team. Just to be honest, if you don't have time to learn the person's name that you're talking to, probably shouldn't be even talking to that person, right? So just start thinking about, when you're in conversations, how do I portray myself as being likable? And also, how do I conduct myself in a way that I can be respected? Because people don't follow weak people, they're going to follow strength. So you got to hold a strength that you know where you're going, a convicted belief that you're going this direction, and I'm not going to stop until I hit this end game. And when people know that you're moving in one direction, never stopping until you show up, that's when people start following you on that linear direction. So as you're going through these conversations, start thinking about that. You need to be painting the picture for your future partners. You're auditioning for them, that if you come partner with me, our future is going to be better together. I'm not going to let the ball drop on you. I'm going to stay in the game with you, and that I'm going to do everything I can to make sure that you like me and that you feel respected, seen, and accepted. But those are all going to help you guys a little bit. Those ways to think about
it. So I'm going to jump in here real quick and kind of shift the conversation a little bit back to your frontline, because I think that a lot of people on this call, that's where they're at, right? So my overall philosophy is you need about 15 FLQAs to really get the income to start, right? So what I kind of coach on and teach on is what I call a 15 2-in-1 model, which is essentially 15 in your front line tap rooting. You get 2 for each of those in line 2, 1 for each of those, 30 in line 3. That, if they're all cappers, will give you 198 grand of income. It builds a foundation. So my question for you, and I see this so frequently because I'm constantly studying the leaderboard, the typical large organization within EXP, and large being over about 2,000 agents, seems to be running about 30 to 50% of their FLAs or FLQAs. And I'm just curious, because so I don't recruit anybody who's not a capping agent for the last 2 years ever, no matter what, because I do all of mine off of cold calling. And that's what I coach and teach on. So I'm curious, when I look at, and I'm not trying to kind of put you on the spot here, but I always have the leaderboard or, well, what do they call the influencer list on my other screen on this call, especially. So of your, 44, 45 FLAs, 19 are FLQAs. That's very typical. And I think, my contention is that is based on, I would imagine the 20 whatever that are not FLQAs came from more of a marketing or attraction strategy versus a recruitment or active strategy. So would you say that when you look at your FLQAs, are the majority of those people that you specifically took the active approach to recruit, and then the FLAs are more the people that were attracted to you, that you didn't have quite the control over who came?
Yes and no. So Mike came in, he's obviously the number one partner that I brought in. He came in through social media. Brant Phillips has almost 350 or so agents. I met Brant at a real estate investing conference, believe it or not. I wasn't even in agent industry. Jay Viken, who I brought in almost 200 agents, I met him at a networking conference. Charles Edwards followed me, who's got over a couple hundred agents I sponsored. He followed my YouTube channel. So they either came in, all my biggest frontline partners came in from either networking events or through social media. Now, I've been trying to explain this for 3 years to people, what I'm doing with my frontline. So this is very important to understand. Have you ever heard the term of what's called a phantom loss? Well, a phantom loss is a loss of income that is not measured. So the most important thing I ever learned in business early on was to focus on the non-measurable, meaning if you have tiers open versus not open, and you're missing income on that next tier, you can actually go and see what one FOQA costs you. Let's say I have 19 right now. If I had one more, and maybe I'll help answer a couple other questions, Mike Sherrard does not even count as an FOQA for me. So think about that. Many of my partners are too successful. Unfortunately, is what happens is they get so big, they stop selling houses, and they don't sell houses anymore. So I went from an icon agent to selling doing billions of dollars sales, and he's not even an FOQA. So that's one of the reasons why as your builders get bigger, they stop selling. But to kind of go back into what I was talking there, I lost my train of thought. Went off on that little tangent there. You got to look at business in 3 different areas: time, income, and emotion. Okay. And The reason why I think people emotionally tie themselves to the loss of income on their front line and their FOQA is because it's measurable. They can actually go to the penny and figure it out. Now, if I showed you guys my back office, I just now hit my 50th agent on my 7th tier. I've almost always had my 5th tier open. I bounced between my 5th and 6th. It dropped a little bit, obviously, because of the market this year. But I try to hover it to keep that kind of open. Now, if I ran the math of what I lost last year, I don't think it was but a few tens of thousands of dollars in adjustment. So on the surface level, you're looking at a business, you're trying to figure out why is that front line the way it is? Why is their total team size the way it is? Is it because of performance or is it because of strategy? So what I can tell you is you do not have the ability to be in 2 places at one time. You cannot think 2 thoughts at one time. A car cannot chase 2 cars, or a dog can't chase 2 cars at one time. So what that means is you have to make a decision as a business leader to where to put your time. Now, if I did not create a YouTube training academy and a Wolfpack training academy and all the call systems and over 1,000 videos that I treated and put all this time and money in creating this Wolfpack system out, do you think that that would have resulted in probably a little bit more than $30,000 a year is what I think I just didn't have because I had my tiers open. So I'm looking at the loss of income by putting my time into my front line. I see my front line as a net negative. Most people are like, well, why don't you open up the tiers? Because my loss of income is substantially larger by putting my time not into building systems and training leaders and doing 3-way calls and helping bring in brokerages. So I can't get on 3-way calls with brokerages of 50 to 100 agents and run their numbers and help them convert over here if I'm out there talking to new agents. So it's a conscious decision to do that. When I came in, I was able to recruit 4 to 6 people a month pretty easily, just working some basic strategies, going to local networking events and REI clubs and real estate schools around me. But to go back to how Sean asked, does it transition over time? In the beginning, it's all attraction. Then once you have a front line, then it's all leadership and duplication. And so if I take my time to go out there and recruit an agent, it could take, 3, 4, 5, 6 hours. Or I could take that time to create a training that can go and be in front of 200 agents. Now, what do you think is going to result from that? Or what if I get on a call and I help someone come on that would have never come on for that person that would have talked to them on their own? So where I put my time is into the duplication strategies. And so to go back to what I was saying earlier, WDB, build it wide, drive it deep, and then backfill. That's what the B stands for, backfill your front line. So what I do is I watch where my front line is, where the loss of income is, and I do a every month math ratio relationship to, do I put more time into duplication strategies, meaning it's always above or below the business. If you're recruiting, it's above your business. It's only personally for you. I focus on below the business activities, meaning underneath my leaders, meaning helping them. Because let's say I spend my time to attract 1 agent for myself. That's 1 agent growing in the business. But let's say I help someone on my 4th tier bring on an agent. What just happened for the mass consciousness of the business? 4th tier agent came in. That means 1 agent for them, above them, above them, and above them, and me. So 4 people in my organization just had a 1 agent win. And if you understand momentum and winning and how winning streaks happen, it's a more valuable return on time for the emotional win for the entire team. If that's kind of making sense, I'll explain that. And then it increases retention for sure when you put more time into your partners and not yourself. They realize that when you have the opportunity to go out there and build your business and open up those tiers, but they see and they know it's conscious that you're taking time off your personal business to help their business, it creates a loyalty, not loyalty, but like a mutual respect that they know that you're there for them. And it's not just about you. And a lot of times in a business like this, I think it's people don't feel seen. They don't feel, accepted a lot of times. And so I'm always trying to figure out ways to help my partners in a way that they do. And I think that helps. But hopefully that helps you understand what I do with that. Now I told the company, I'm like, if you guys want me to stop doing all the trainings and things, I can pull my time out of here and go recruit a bunch of new agents. But it'd be a net negative for everybody. So you need to start thinking about that. It's not just the income, it's the time. And as you become more successful in business, like for example, when I was flipping houses, I could make 40, 50K on a house. You can make 40, 50K on a house. We could all do it. But because of our hourly income, one made more money than the other one, for sure. And it made sense to flip houses for a long time until my hourly income went so high that the extra time into the deal, if you really looked at the hourly income based off the profit that I put in, it was actually I was losing money on the deals, even though the $40,000 whatever profit was on paper, when you looked at my hourly income and related to how many hours I'd have to put in that project to do it, I was a net negative. So I think if you guys start thinking about that, figure out what you make per hour and use that hourly income to make decisions on, does this make sense, or should I have an opportunity cost to put my time into a different activity? And I think maybe if you look at that, guys, some of y'all would think maybe I should be doing more team support, culture building, creating systems and education, having those late night calls, making people feel supported, than thinking about your frontline. So my belief on this is that you should, for sure, your first year shoot to get to your third tier, and then focus to get at least one tier open a year, every year going forward, unless you have a runoff business, meaning it's just really driving down deep. And then you can take time off of it to put it into your front line because you have good leaders building right now. They're growing. So you don't really need to put the time into them. They're good to go. I mean, they can handle it. So go put your time into your front line, but don't take too much time out, because when people see you drifting out of the business, not tied into the business all the time, that's when they start thinking you're on the beach and you're not hanging out, you're not involved anymore. But
yeah, I think that's great. And I want to focus on two things there. Thing number one is I push tap rooting like it is the absolute magic of magic wands, right? And for everybody on here, tap rooting, essentially, we all know the expression, a recruit is not a recruit until you have a recruit. I like to just think about how Dr. Seuss would say it, because I read Dr. Seuss, all the places you'll go, to my kids every day, because I wanted them to know that Mendelssohn's don't hang in the waiting place. When they were young, they got that book read to them every night. But Dr. Seuss would put it more like this: a recruit's not a recruit until you have until they have a recruit. So recruit your recruits first recruits. In other words, tap rooting is going to give you essentially two of the things that Sean mentions. It's going to blow up your retention. It's absolutely going. Nobody walks away from leaders who work for them before they work for themselves. That's right. And the second thing it's going to do is it is going to launch your reproduction. Because if you can help an agent get 2 or 3 agents underneath them, they're 2 or 3 agents away from a level opened up. They see that the model works because you've taken the time to show it to them, and you've taken the time to show it to them in a way that they're benefiting. The second thing that I want to add on to that is there is one core theme that you were talking about here without actually saying it, and that is none of your business would be flowing at all. I've never met you before, so I hope this doesn't come off wrong. None of your business would exist if you didn't do one thing, and that's tracking your numbers. You're tracking your numbers, you're tracking your activity. You know where to put your effort because you've already tracked everything. I track everything on spreadsheets. In fact, I can tell you how much money you're losing per level if you just tell me what the percentage is of agents per level. Right. And I think people, they think, oh, I gotta get my 40 in my front line. I gotta get my 40 in my front line. It's going to take you 4 years to get a substantial amount of people into level 7 anyways. So again, my strategy is always 15 in the front line. And I only recruit cappers because I want to make sure I'm building a foundation. But like you said, open up levels to level 3. I say level 4, but level 3 works just as well. And then help those people. And you're going to build your rev share with a foundation made of bricks versus made of sticks. Right. So do you want to touch on tracking numbers real quick? Because everything, I'm a numbers nerd. All I'm hearing you say over and over again is I put in the work to track my numbers up front, and I was able to figure out the solution because the data is there and data doesn't lie.
Yeah. So
exactly right, John. Well, and by the way, see, I always think in terms of who, not you, right? I'm a highly leveraged individual, and I encourage you all to do that because that's how we create time abundance, how you create freedom within your life to leverage through others. I would encourage you to check out what Ashley Galladay is doing with her system and understanding the numbers. She gives you 15 different reports. Just reach out to her on EXP Workplace. Mention Sean Kokoska asked you to reach out to her. She'll show you her system. Guys, in moments, you can pull it all up. You'll understand exactly where your numbers are within your revenue share organization. And by the way, Jack Ty, you've been really patient with your hand up. Thank you so much. I'm sure your arm's getting a little bit tired. Go ahead, buddy, unmute yourself. Take over.
Thank you so much, Connor, and thank you much, Sean, for putting this together. I have
man.
so many questions because this is just gold, you know. And I've asked 2 or 3 real quick. Number one is how are you enroll? Because I met Mike Shara last year at one of the event. Great guy. How are you enrolling like your groups to attend the trainings? Because I know you guys do a lot of virtual trainings. And secondly would be how did you came up with your group name? Because I've been thinking for a long time. Yours is genius. I look at the logo, I'm like, you guys are in the same group. When you first came on, I mean, I've been struggling coming up with a group name. And third, lastly, is like you do a lot of YouTube. I know Mike did a lot of my YouTube content. We do have a YouTube channel as well for agent attraction in Chinese. What are some of the strategies that we can apply so that we can touch more agents?
Yeah, so most of what Mike sells, he also, just like anybody, gives out for free on their channel. So like YouTube, probably go check out some of the stuff that Mike's doing. So I'm trying to figure out which one of those you want me to answer. So let's see. So which one do you want me to answer first?
Group. How do you enroll people to go into your trainings?
Yeah, so like once they're inside the team, you have a my.exp really back office that you can export the emails, and then we just do email and text messaging, and then we have Facebook groups that we post in behind the scenes. If you're talking about when they come in through social media, so you're going to have pre-content, content, and post-content. Pre-content's the optimization, the algorithm side, meaning everything that happens before the movie's in the movie theater. Then content's the actual movie, meaning the editing, the video, the life, the quality, what's happening in the content. And then post-content is the monetization. How do you build a business around the attention once you have the attention? Meaning you don't just want subscribers and views, you need to monetize it. So you can drive them to Facebook groups, mastermind systems. You can get them to click a link for a retargeting system. You can drive them to opt-in forms like email list opt-in forms. You can give out free products, free training, things like that. I'm going to tell a story of the Wolfpack. Actually, we got a video that's coming out, kind of like how it played out. I'm actually going to tell part of it tomorrow, Chris, on the beta call, but it's going to take too long for that. I'd rather maybe y'all watch that video later. I'll put it on so I started a new channel, personal branded, my Connor Steinbrook channel. That's where I'm putting out a lot of like entrepreneurship content and EXP stuff. So I started that one about 6 months ago. And then my investment channel is Investor Army. And but I would be putting out probably that story on that channel here in the next couple weeks. On that channel, I started it from the beginning, where if you are lost in life, struggling in life, where I was 100 grand debt, trying to figure out how to start over. I filmed like the first 10 videos of a sequential order process of what I did step by step when I was at rock bottom, and what I did to change my life, and who I started following, the mentors, and the step-by-step process. But I'll put that on there. And then did I miss one? Give me one more. A couple there. And then I got a few things I'll rattle off here that I think are important. But did I get all those or miss one?
Yeah.
Well, first off, I think it's critically important that you guys name your organizations here at EXP. Seriously, come up with a name that really talks to the future vision, what it is that you intend to accomplish. For example, with Connor, the Wolfpack is that we don't run alone. We're a collective group of like-minded individuals, and we're all going the same direction, rowing the boat at the same time in the same direction, right? So for us, we came up with a group called Libertas, which is Latin for the word freedom. It's part of the vision. And anytime I bring up Libertas, it creates a story behind that and what we choose to accomplish for the people who want to align with this vision. So whatever name you come up with, just make sure it's part of your ultimate vision. What, in essence, I think each group should have a mission statement, a vision statement. Mission means here's where we're going. Vision means here's what it looks like when we get there. So having those statements in place becomes kind of the glue of the culture that you choose to create. Now, focusing on culture, I want to build the type of culture within Libertas where, number one, we see the best in each other. Number two, we want the best for each other. And finally, we expect the best from each other. So with that kind of mindset, it allows you to create a collective group of people that are all headed the same direction. Connor, you're demonstrating that. And thank you for that. So Jack, great question. And let's go on to the next question you had, Jack. Go ahead.
Oh, so
well, go ahead, Jack. Sorry.
So you mentioned about some of the things you can do post content and after and prior to, doing your content. What would be like what was the most useful class or book that you have learned or studied for the skill set and the mindset part?
I mean, I'm not trying to be cliche, but Think and Grow Rich changed my life for real. And I'm not trying to push my belief system on you guys, but my faith, obviously, the Bible changed my life for sure, because I abandoned my faith for a big part of my life, and I came back to it, and that was when my life changed. Just to be straight up honest with you guys, I'm not trying to tell you what to believe, but that's what happened for me. I think How to Win Friends and Influence is the best book for how to kind of start out with understanding how to speak with people and relationship wise. A book called Influence by Robert Cialdini. So like what I did when I was struggling in life, I first started out, I was like, what do I want? I want to be wealthy. I want to make money. Well, who has money? Who has wealth? Well, let me study the wealthiest people in the world. So I started studying banks and how the Fed works and the Federal Reserve. And then I looked into like JP Morgan Chase and Rockefeller and Vanderbilt. And I studied wealth creation first. So you got to figure out, ask yourself, what do you want? Then you figure out who's the best at it and then study that. And then everything in life that you want, where does it come from? It comes in the future. If you don't have it today, the only way you can get it is if it's in the future, but you live in the present. So how do you get what you want in the future? Change who you are and the actions you take in the present moment. How do you know what to do in the present? You study the past. You go back in the historical record of things that people did in their present, meaning they filmed a video one day. It was left in the historical record of the world that we all live in for all of us to come across on YouTube. It's all out there. Every key, every secret to your success is right there. The only thing is your time to go sift through the information and apply it and test it, try it, see what works. So when we come across a video that someone did in their present that was left in the past, we watch it in our present, apply it in the present, and it can change our future. So when you start thinking about what you are and who you are and how we move through time, you're going to think about time a little bit differently. And wealthy people think about time, not money. And when you move the time thoughts in relationship to dollar thoughts, you're going to start to see growth. To kind of go back to what we were talking about earlier with math and tracking, one of the people that I follow a lot is Jim Rohn. And he would always say that if you track anything enough, a ratio will appear. So if you go to bat one time versus 10 times, what happens? Now you have a ratio of 3 out of 10, batting 300, making $4 million a year in Major League Baseball, right? So you have to track your business. My light went out. You have to track your business. And that gives you, the reason why you track your numbers is because it gives you the ability to take a risk in the future. If, let's say, you knew that if you spent $1 and that ROI was $3 coming in because you've tracked it over a big volume, do you have any fear to put that marketing dollar out? Now, if you're dropping $5,000 in a marketing campaign you've never done before, is there a little bit of risk and a little bit of fear because you don't know the data, you don't know the return? So, for example, like as we grew, you can't have a relationship with everybody. That's how the game changes. In the beginning, I tried to know everybody. As it grew, you can't. So I watched the back office. And one of the things I do is Sean, this would be for something, I do a rule of 3, meaning if I see an agent that I've not met yet, add 3 agents, meaning that they start the onboarding. What I do is I reach down to them to see why this is happening. Are these close personal relationships? Do they bring a team over, or are they attracting agents from the cold market? And one of the things that you'll learn is that if agents can attract people that they've never met before, those are people you want to put the time taking your risks working with, because those are going to be your elite builders at some point. And so if I see someone growing, I reach down. And then if I see someone where they had 3 agents leave, I reach down to figure out what's going on. So I'm studying data all the time to decide where I want to put my time. Now, to kind of go back to some other things, you always want to be recruiting all the time. So as ABR, always be recruiting, meaning recruiting yourself, recruiting your partners, and recruiting new agents. So we're obviously we would know we need to recruit new agents, right? But why do people have flat lines and plateaus? Because their belief dropped. They were excited when they came in. That's why they came in. They believed that they were going to have a great opportunity. And then what happens in any opportunity? Adversity kicks in, and that's when the belief drops. And so we're always re-recruiting people, ourselves as well. Anything you're going to do, whether it's physical activity, going to the gym, you recruit yourself in the morning, get up and go. So you're always recruiting everything you do. And the ability to influence is one of the most important skill sets that you guys can have. So I studied communication, influence, conversation control, things like that. And then when it comes to your business, you want to track attrition. So we all track growth, but we don't track attrition. And there's 3 different types of attrition I look at in my business. I look at the attrition of actually, hey, an agent left back office and they're no longer at EXP. That's attrition 1 that I measure. Attrition 2 is they're at EXP, but they're no longer growing, meaning they're no longer having results. That could be that that they're recruiting 5, 6, 7 people for 3 months, and all of a sudden they go to 0. What do we do in that spot? We need to figure out what's going on. Is it a performance issue? Is it a health issue? Is it a mindset issue? And one thing you guys need to think about is, I learned this lesson along the way, that just because people go quiet doesn't mean that they're checking out. And sometimes we feel like, why are they not plugged in? Things like that. And one of my friends kind of checked out. But when I finally reached back out to him, I was a little annoyed. He actually had cancer, believe it or not, and didn't tell anybody, right? So certain things can happen like that. So we need to figure out why people's time's out of the business. So it's either the agents just leave, or they're no longer attracting for rev share, meaning so they used to put time into it, meaning 20 hours a week, and now there's no time going into it. So the time attrition, and then there's skill set attrition, meaning they were attracting agents from their warm market, and then they got through their warm market, and now they can't attract anybody else because they don't have cold market strategies. And so now that's when you figure out, this person wants to build, they want to do this, but they were someone who in life attracted enough people to be around them that when they made the move, that some people followed them. So they have that ability to attract people, but they need to figure out how to get outside their comfort zone to talk to strangers and get to the cold market. So we're just trying, I know we're running out of time, trying to give you guys a lot of little things here that can help. And then just some quick bullet points on the Wolfpack brand. I went to Plano West here in Dallas. So if you look at Plano West High School, we're the Wolfpack, and I played sports. And we always had the mentality in sports, we're going to run together as a pack. We're going to, instead of lone wolf, let's win together as a family, as a team. And so that's the Wolfpack. And so what's crazy is that like 3 years later, this is how crazy this is. Kind of gave me chills when I found this out. If you type my name, Connor, into the internet, I'm actually Irish, believe it or not. And my name from Irish stands for lover of wolves, which is kind of weird to think about, that I wouldn't build this big Wolfpack organization. And then like later, my name actually means lover of wolves. So I don't know what that means, but it had nothing to do with the decision. It's just thought it was a little weird thing. But
see, and I just thought you were a big Hangover fan. So
Yeah, I thought you
all right on,
Yeah.
Mike. You've been really patient. Let's go over to Michael real quick.
yes, Michael, what's going on, man?
Sorry about that. I was driving. I have a question, Connor, and thank you for all the advice. You're a really good speaker, man. You really influenced me. So with the Wolfpack, Mike Gerard created the Wolfpack. What made you want to go forward with that name? Because let's say I have a brand name called Achieved It Mastermind here in the New York, New Jersey area. And how can my downline use that name for their growth and for their agent attraction?
Yeah, well, so Mike didn't create the Wolfpack. Mike joined us when we were at almost 400 agents. So I founded the Wolfpack. He didn't come in until, so I started it back in 2018. Mike's just so dominant, has such a big name out there that it would just, some people think that, but he came in when we were about.
Oh, really? So you were the originator of it?
Yeah, so I founded the Wolfpack back in 2018. Mike joined me going into 2020, I think, right after April 2020. So we were already going up the top 100 leaderboard. Part of the reason why I joined was because he saw the system I built out behind the scenes. So I built out over 6 different academies, over 1,000 videos, all the presentations. I've built out 70 plus presentations. So this is stuff that just isn't seen on the surface because I'm kind of introverted. And I just like, even though I have to be on social media for business, I don't really want to be. If it was up to me, I'd be like at the lake by myself fishing, just to be honest. That's just kind of how I am. And Mike's a lot more louder than I am. He's obviously got a lot of Lamborghinis and stuff like that. I'm more like sitting inside reading a book. So we work together well for that reason. I'm a little bit older than Mike, so we match up really well. He's a little bit younger and I'm a little bit older, so we kind of feather each other out there, and then we kind of fill in each other's compliments or lackings. And this is where great partners become partners for each other, is when you find someone that's not identical to you, but they have similar things that they share, but not all the things, but they fill in each other's weaknesses. And so that's really where you need, and then if you're running a business where it's not like partners and you're just hiring people, you need to hire people that fill in your weaknesses, if that helps. But what was your question about that when you were?
Now, do you have to let EXP know that you have a name for your organization, like for your downline? You're not an actual real estate team. You're just, the Wolfpack represents the organization of your downline.
Yeah, it's just like the Honey Badgers. It's just, and I'll talk about it. So part of the reason I had to create the brand was Honey Badgers were freaking crushing us. And I'm gonna tell a story. So like basically there was like an old policy, and this is why we got to find when policies don't work well. we got to fight for them, because there was a policy back in the day that when you sign up to EXP, you signed an application, and then believe it or not, the ICA did not come at the same time as the application did. And what happened was it could sometimes come 5 to 7 days later. And I'd spend like, 6 weeks, months working with people. They'd sign the application. We think they're good to go. And then they'd fall from what we call the EXP black hole. We didn't know what was happening. But what was happening was, what happens when someone signs up. Within 10 seconds, they'd let every person in the world know 100 million times over. And so they'd find people that already joined EXP. And there was teams ahead of us that were branded, and, like Honey Badgers, they had coaching and training systems that the value proposition was much bigger than ours at the moment. And what was happening was, in that window, they would realize that they could still change their sponsor. Now you can't. Now it's, thankfully they changed that, because that was one of the ways that a lot of us got kind of some bad breaks back at the time. But now it's merged. But during that time, I was very frustrated, because I was like, well, why is the company letting this happen? Why are they able to just step in? And so that was the victim mentality that you could take. And then once again, talking about Jim Rohn, I just remember one night being like, well, Jim always says is, don't wish it was easier, wish you were better. And I came to this realization that if I'm going to be in this and do this long-term and to do it successfully, I need to build a long-term brand that's going to stand up against the brands I'm competing against today. And that's when I kind of went through, and I was like, well, looks like people are choosing animal names in this company, so we're going to choose an animal name. And I was like, well, what am I going to choose? Lions, bears, tigers, whatever. And I went to Planet West. And then also the symbology behind the family of how wolves run together is kind of, they do it as a team, not as lone wolves. So it just made sense. And that's kind of like, all that kind of came to that decision at that time. And it was that I knew that we couldn't compete long-term unless we had a brand. And then how I was going to choose a brand. And that's kind of how I came across it.
Right on.
If that helps.
Well, good stuff. All right, Connor, dude, so much value. Thank you so much for taking the time. John Mendelson, thanks for co-hosting with me today and in future sessions. Ultimately, John will be taking over this session, which is going to be a blast. Yet I just love keeping my finger on the pulse of what is everybody else doing. Connor, you didn't disappoint today. In fact, you went well over and beyond. And it's just kind of funny. You're dropping bombs, man, and you just do it so nonchalantly. I mean, just
so effortlessly. Yeah.
Effortlessly. I mean, I got 3 pages of notes here, and I'm on fire right now. I'm thinking about who's that next person that I can impact in such a powerful way within the organization, such that they can create their own libertas within our organization. So good stuff, you guys. Thanks for being here. We do this every single week. I want you to keep showing up.
Hey,
until Chuck again next week, just be on purpose.
One nugget on the way out.
Be powerful. Connor, what'd you say, bud?
I didn't want to talk over you. I just want to give him one nugget on the way out of here, that you talk well when you do something over and over and over. So I came across something, I don't even know where it was, that somebody I was following that basically said the rule of 1,000 presentations, meaning if you do 1,000 presentations on anything that you're selling, whatever it is, real estate, whatever, listing, you will be a millionaire, essentially, because the amount of times doing it, the repetition of doing it creates a skill set high enough that you're at that level compared to your competition, that business comes to you. And so I believe that. So I set a goal to do 1,000 EXP explain presentations and then also run 1,000 masterminds. And so I think if you guys, the more you do the presentation, the more you practice it, the more you do it through repetition, what happens is the understanding of it increases and the confidence inside you increases. And so many times agents don't talk to agents because they don't know what they're talking about. So they don't want to get questions asked about what they don't know about to embarrass themselves. So the more you know, the more you're going to grow, because as you educate yourself, the risk goes down, the fear goes down, you feel more comfortable getting into conversations. So naturally you're going to start more conversations. So if you're not having the results you want, educate yourself, study the model, study it well, practice it, because as you feel more comfortable with it, it's going to increase your self-esteem around it. And that's going to naturally increase your likelihood to go start more conversations about it. And that should definitely help you guys a little bit. Now, Sean, I just want to say thank you and all you for your time. We'll get you on my Monday call, and grateful to come and speak to you guys today. Hope that helped in some way. And if I can ever help, just reach out to me, hit me on Workplace or something. But thank you guys for letting me come and bug you guys. And other than that, any last things I got to hop off? Maybe one quick thing, Sean? Or
there you go, Connor. John, I think you wanted to say something. Go ahead.
I just wanted to remind everybody, I saw a couple of questions about the recording of this. There were so many great nuggets dropped here that I don't care if you had Chat GPT going next to you, it would have missed some of them. So go to the Icon coaching website. In the events tab, if you go on attraction and action, that's this call, and then scroll down on the left-hand side, you will see don't miss a thing. every single one of of these that Sean has done is recorded on there. Guys, jump back in here, listen to this again. So much good stuff. Connor, thank you. It was awesome.
All right. See you all next week. Thanks so much for your time.
Thank you.
Talk soon.
Thanks.
Thank you,
Guys have a good
Connor.
day. Sir, you guys have a good one.